this is something that we haven't announced yet, but we'll do it here on Dapp Central because we have history, and I love doing interviews with you, and this will be fun to break out. But ADA Handle will be doing a PFP collection. I think if you've been in our Discord for the past couple of years, we have a really diehard and really lovely community. And a lot of them have felt a specific attachment to their handle in a way that, a PFP community would feel a specific attachment to their PFP. And it always felt as if like there was sort of this missing connection between, people who have that attachment to a piece of art and people who have this attachment to this utility-based service. And so what we wanted to do was to create sort of that binding bridge between the two. And so we landed on doing, okay, well, let's have a set number of these and then have our community members who have felt the strongest about ADA Handle to be able to bridge that and have, this connection between, a visual piece of art that represents themselves in the Handle community and then the utility-based aspects and service that represents the Handle community. And so we will be having a PFP launch here, I think a couple or a few weeks after the first cohort or mainnet launches for personalization.
What is going on, ADA Nation? Welcome to the Dapp Central YouTube channel. My name is Fareed, and in today's video, I've got a very special guest, Mr. Goose from the ADA Handle team. Goose, welcome aboard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Fareed. I'm very excited to get into it.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time. I know the past few days, probably the past few months actually, have been extremely busy for you and the remaining members of the ADA Handle team, given the fact that you guys just launched on the pre-prod testnet. Now, what I want to do as a part of today's video, and as always, is just briefly give the viewers an idea as to what we're going to be chatting about, and then we are going to jump straight on into it. So the first thing we're going to jump into is going to be what is personalization. Following that, we're going to touch on some of the importance or some of the bits of importance surrounding personalization, as well as your upcoming marketplace for vendors. After that, we're going to talk about some of the potential for what you guys are building, as well as an upcoming project catalyst proposal. And then we'll close this video out by touching on some of the future vision, as well as the roadmap for the ADA Handle team. Goose, how does that sound to you?
That sounds perfect to me.
All right, let's go ahead and just jump straight on in. And before we really dive into personalization, do you mind maybe just kind of briefly explaining or touching on what ADA handles are and what problem within the Cardano and crypto community you guys are actually solving?
Yeah, totally. So at its core, ADA Handle is the naming convention foundation that has existed on Cardano for the past couple of years. So simply put, all we do is we take the concatenated address that exists in crypto rails, and we turn that into a human readable address. So that way in the user interface, people aren't sending to, a long 32 character string address. Instead, they're sending it to something more personalized, somebody more personalized. That way I'm not sending to, ADDR1 and then, 30 some odd other characters I'm sending to Fareed, or I'm sending to Dapp Central. And it makes that entire process, way easier for everybody on Cardano itself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And right now we're taking a look at your guys' website, and you guys have now minted over, it looks like 221,000 of these NFT addresses. And for myself personally, I own quite a few of them, right? You guys, I think, began your mint about a year ago, and that really kind of took the entire space by storm. And since then, we've seen more than what it states here, which is what, 65 plus integrations, right? So we've got you guys integrated into the top wallets, which include Eternal, Nami, Flint, Typhon, Jira Wallet. We've also got you guys integrating with World Mobile, Sunday Swap, MinSwap, Genius Yield, and the list goes on. And again, I think it doesn't really take a lot of brain power to realize how much of a need there really was for a solution like this, right? Instead of me trying to memorize my Cardano wallet address, I can quickly just type in $Dapp Central or potentially $Mr. Goose, and everything that I want to route over to you is done in a really easy way. So thank you guys for what you guys are building. And again, I'll be leaving the link to all of your website and your socials down in the description below for any viewers who might be hearing about ADA Handle for the very first time. So now that we've got the introduction out of the way, right, let's maybe just jump into personalization, which was a feature that has really been waited upon for quite a bit of time from the community. So do you mind breaking down what personalization is and how it really stacks on top of the underlying infrastructure that you guys have already built?
Yeah, of course. So funny enough, Fareed and I did an interview probably 10 months back at Rare Bloom in October. And I remember initially talking about personalization with you because we had just, I'm not sure if that was before or after we did Fund 9 for Catalyst to build out personalization. But I remember at the time, it was sort of this like ethereal idea and there wasn't really code in a repository yet, right? And 8 months later, here we are. We're launched on pre-prod. We've ironed out all the kinks, and we have a set goal of what we want to accomplish with personalization. And for us, personalization is sort of Ada Handle's first step towards our own rendition of on-chain identity. Everybody's going to have their own rendition of on-chain identity. IMX has theirs. Atala Prism's going to have theirs. And we see it the way we see it. And so personalization is sort of that foundation for kickstarting on-chain identity for Cardano through Ada Handle users. It was with the introduction of SIP68 that we were able to customize the data that exists on a handle and allow us to create these like personalized experiences for our handle users that don't only exist on our application, but are streamlined with all of the integrations that we have that are existing. And they'll be able to have, one handle identity that exists across all of those applications because all of those applications can now pull that data from the chain and use them within their application. So a very interesting concept that hasn't existed not only in the Web2 world, but obviously not in the Web3 on Cardano. So we're really excited to bring this feature that will hopefully be new and exciting for everybody who's going to use it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I remember meeting with you, and after I posted that video, a lot of the members that view and watch my videos were asking about, when will we be finally able to customize and make our ADA handles really feel like they're personal to us, right? Now, granted, when you mint a handle, nobody else can mint the same exact handle, which already makes it personal, but there was really no way to make it look any different than any other handle that's out there, right? So this is going to be a feature that now allows us to do that. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys have officially launched on the pre-prod testnet. So do you mind maybe kind of touching on, the work that went into that? I think you are kind of on the technical side. What was your experience like getting all of this launched and finally into the hands of the community?
Oh man, just a totally new experience for us. And the reason being is to have something like this be successful, especially on launch, is you don't just need one development timeline to hit all of their execution dates. You need to like parallelize with all of your different partners, and between us, our 3 vendors, and then the other partners who we have yet to announce, who are going to have all of this ready once we do launch, and to like get all of those development timelines to launch features at the same time, to get them ready on pre-prod, to get them ready on preview, and then get them ready on mainnet for their initial feature launches. Like, that was a completely new experience for us as builders, completely new experience for us as a company, and something that we'll be able to better execute on in further releases and further feature build outs, which is only going to benefit us. It's only going to benefit the community because it's going to start to knock down those timelines. And reason being is, we had put timeline on timeline all the way back in like the Q1 of 2023. And now, we're here in August, or we're here in July, looking at probably an August launch. So definitely a lot of hurdles to jump over, a lot of new things to learn. But from a tech perspective, it's been also another really fun thing to navigate how we're going to accomplish this through smart contracts with an entirely new SIP that came out as we were building SIP68, and then having to like switch gears because SIP68 made it very, very easy to do what we wanted to do. So to finally be on pre-prod, finally see that, there were no mission critical bugs. There were a lot of very minor, very small bugs that, we can iron out and then get into launch and having as an effective and smooth launch as possible has been, a really fun experience for us.
I'm happy to hear that. I think from any way that you look at it, it's a lot of work. And one thing that I can definitely say that is visible through what you guys have done is the quality, right? Through and through. I've actually used the testnet myself, and when I say the quality is there, I've enjoyed the experience. I was able to connect my wallet, go ahead and actually begin to play out with a lot of these features. And like you said, I was able to see the integration of the Dirtbirds NFTs. I was also able to see the integration of the Ada Goats, or the Goat Tribes, excuse me, as well as Clay Nation. Right now, there's another NFT collection that I did see that was somewhat integrated that I wasn't able to recognize. And I'll let you speak on that here in just a second. But one thing that you did touch on is SIP68. So I want to be clear here for the viewers that if they are holding an ADA handle right now, that it's actually using, I believe, SIP25. Is that correct?
Yes. So the existing handles on chain right now, they are SIP25. They do adhere to the SIP25 standard. In order to enable the features that come with personalization, they will need to migrate to SIP68. And there will be an intuitive UI for that to be possible. And I'll kind of walk through it here, just sort of anecdotally. So when you come onto the platform handle.me, once personalization is live, you'll be able to connect your wallet, the wallet that has your handle in it, or the handle that you do want to personalize. And we'll do an automatic check, whether it's SIP25 adherence or SIP68 adherence. And if it's SIP25, instead of the button having you continue to the dashboard of the designer, it'll say upgrade. And you'll be able to upgrade that handle. And we will, and say if you're, a multiple handle owner, which most people are, I am myself, there will be a bundle option so that you don't have to make multiple transactions. And for the record here, it is a fee to do so, but ADA handle makes no money off of it whatsoever. It's all on-chain fees. We will have to burn the handle of SIP25 and then remint the SIP68, and it happens all in one transaction just to minimize as much cost as possible. And yeah, that'll be how it works.
Appreciate that breakdown. Now, I assume that, let's say that somebody's coming over from the old ADA handle SIP25 standard and looking to adopt SIP68, and they want to personalize. Can they personalize and just have everything kind of done in one transaction at the very end once they've done the personalization? Or do they have to do it in a two-step way where they have to mint and burn and mint SIP68 and then go and begin personalization?
Yeah, they'll have to be two separate transactions. So it'll happen where, in order to connect your wallet, you'll have to upgrade. And then once upgraded and connected, then you'll be able to actually access the dashboard and the designer. And then all of that happens in an interaction in itself.
Got it. Cool. I appreciate the information on that. Now let's keep things moving along here. We actually did touch on the next topic here very briefly, and that was going to be the vendors, right? So you guys are going to be expanding and doing something a little bit different. Now, if I'm not mistaken, what you guys are planning on doing is collaborating at the very beginning with a set few NFT collections in order to make sure that, personalization and these NFTs are to a certain standard, which is why you guys have partnered up with Dirtbirds, Goat Tribe, Clay Nation, and then this other NFT collection that I'm not necessarily too familiar with just yet. That said, what is the point here with adding these different vendors? And then at what point will you guys be able to actually expand this to be run by the community where anybody can come on there and bring their potential NFT collection and use that for customization?
Yeah, totally. So I'll kind of start a ways back, and I'll work myself into the marketplace. The entire idea of personalization and why we chose this as a route for us to develop towards sort of came from the what is the one direction that we can take within our roadmap that's going to accomplish a set of check boxes. And at the time, in the beginning, it was like, let's focus on DIDs. Let's focus on decentralized identifiers, because that's what's big. That's right up ADA handles alley. And if we figure that out for handles, it'll be a huge value add. And I remember we had just onboarded, in order to do this, we had onboarded an SSI specialist. His name's Daryl O'Donnell. He works for Continuum Loop, and he's contracted out for Tala Prism and helps them with their SSI development. And he basically just told us, like, guys, you guys have a specific product and you guys have many different options in here to build towards. And I'm looking at this personalization feature, and I'm looking, at the target audience that you guys have and the market that exists within the NFT and PFP space. And this really just feels like something that's right up your alley in real time, right up your guys' alley in like having a direct impact, not only in value add for the community, but also in revenue for the company. And so not focusing on DIDs right now, because DIDs is this entirely different space that you guys are going to be able to leverage as it's evolved and matured, rather than being the people who are sort of, kind of pioneering and building into the wind here, and let those standards be built and then leverage it later. But right now, focus on this. And so that was kind of our decision and our way into personalization. And so when we started building on personalization, what we wanted to do was not only empower ourselves through the platform, but empower everybody. And so creating this platform and this marketplace for anybody to utilize, not only if you want to be a vendor or if you want to be a service provider, because you can build tooling around this. And, we have a few services who build minting tooling, who are already starting to build out specific services for vendors to be onboarded onto the marketplace. But for the marketplace itself, as vendors, what we're trying to do is empower them and enable them to create goods and services for their user base that's value add for the community that they've created through, their PFPs or however which way they've done so. Because as a vendor, you don't have to be, a 10K collection or any sort of PFP collection. You could be SundaeSwap. You could be Liquid. Liquid has their own NFTs. SundaeSwap can create their own backgrounds for their users and sell them, or whatever assets, and sell them on the marketplace. And so what we're really trying to do is empower each community to allow handle owners to more readily personalize themselves. And then because of the integrations that we've had, allow those vendors who have sold those assets and earned goods to sort of have a spotlight within all of the integrations that we've had, right? Like, so if you sell, let's say, Goats right here, Goat sells their backgrounds. And then throughout the 70 some odd integrations we have, that background shows up in a UI across all of those different applications. Now that background gets more limelight. This artwork gets more limelight. Artists get more empowered because they get more exposure to the art that they've created. And so that's really what the marketplace is all about.
Nice to hear. I think it's a win-win. Number one, a lot of the platforms or a lot of the projects that are coming onto your platform are getting exposure, while you guys are also benefiting from that as well, right? So it almost kind of plays to the both of you guys. You guys get a little bit of benefit, while also the NFT collections and PFPs that you guys are supporting also get a benefit in terms of exposure, right? Now, one thing that, again, I noticed here was that there are 3 very notable NFT collections here, but there's a 4th one there, which I'm not too familiar with. Do you mind maybe kind of touching on that, again, if you will?
Yeah, totally. So the initial plan for personalization was to have 3 blue chip projects to flagship the launch of personalization. And the reason being is the entire process of onboarding onto the marketplace, completely new, completely novel for developers, completely novel for like minting engines that each of these communities have. And so what we wanted to do was sort of create like a streamlined process. That way we could build out for the rest of, the NFT projects that exist, or any of the potential vendors that want to be onboarded to the marketplace. So we wanted to like keep the cohort small, kind of move as quickly as possible, create a framework, and then use that framework for future vendors. With that being said, there will be some space between these cohorts, and a space between our last cohort and then the marketplace itself, which will have a self onboarding feature, so that there will no need for there to be cohorts anymore, and any project could self onboard at that point. But within those time periods, we wanted to introduce a new vendor, and that vendor being Ada Handle itself. And so Ada Handle is selling their own goods and assets on the marketplace, utilizing the asset as any vendor would. It is the direction we're taking this. And so having backgrounds readily available, having them as fungible tokens, having some having some NFT backgrounds that have some that have some rarity and some limit to them, and make it as fun as possible. And this is something that we haven't announced yet, but we'll do it here on Dapp Central because we have history, and I love doing interviews with you, and this will be fun to break out. But ADA Handle will be doing a PFP collection. I think if you've been in our Discord for the past couple of years, we have a really diehard and really lovely community. And a lot of them have felt a specific attachment to their handle in a way that, a PFP community would feel a specific attachment to their PFP. And it always felt as if like there was sort of this missing connection between, people who have that attachment to a piece of art and people who have this attachment to this utility-based service. And so what we wanted to do was to create sort of that binding bridge between the two. And so we landed on doing, okay, well, let's have a set number of these, and then have our community members who have felt the strongest about ADA Handle to be able to bridge that and have, this connection between, a visual piece of art that represents themselves in the Handle community, and then the utility-based aspects and service that represents the Handle community. And so we will be having a PFP launch here, I think a couple or a few weeks after the first cohort or mainnet launches for personalization. And I hope you guys are excited for it.
I definitely am. Thank you for breaking that here. I appreciate that very much, Mr. Goose.
Totally.
If the entire collection is going to look anything like this preview that we've got here, you've definitely got a buyer from me. I had an extremely smooth experience, and again, I own multiple handles minting through your guys' portal, right? So if you guys are keeping up to par with that experience, I imagine that this NFT collection will do just as well as the actual ADA handles themselves have done. So again, you guys, I urge you guys to go ahead and jump on to the pre-prod testnet. I did release a fully dedicated video breaking this down not too long ago. And I basically walked through the process of connecting my Lace wallet. After that, I jumped through the actual designer. I took a look at adding social media links, and then also even was able to add a PFP. I believe it was Mr. Goose. It was your little testnet PFP. Yeah. It was, right? Yeah. So I enjoyed that entire process. It was, again, very, very smooth. And if you're watching this video and you guys want more of a detailed breakdown of that, then definitely make sure to go ahead and check out that particular video. Again, I appreciate you breaking the alpha here, Goose. Let's jump into the next topic here, which is going to be surrounding the potential for personalization as well as a catalyst proposal. So, now that we've kind of talked about the marketplace for vendors, we've talked about what your guys' plans and goals are there with the cohorts. What is the potential for all of this technology, right? We're now just breaking into SIP68, where we now have the ability to customize these a little bit more. But like, where do you see this going? And then do you mind maybe touching on what you guys are planning on doing for Catalyst and what you guys are pitching and proposing as a part of funding round number 10?
Yeah, of course. Right. So the potential for personalization. So in the beginning, I'd mentioned personalization is the foundation and the first rendition of ADA handles move towards on-chain identity. And because personalization represents a foundation for being able to customize data that exists on a handle, what we'll be able to do is at some point, and this is going to take a lot of jumping through hoops, as you start to identify a feature that has personal data on it, you start to walk the legal bounds quite often. But at some point, being able to enable domains through personalization on your handle, being able to enable DIDs through personalization and your ADA handle are all things that are now enabled once personalization goes live. It really is just a matter of how we build the interactions, how we build sort of the switchboarding between data, and also the legal aspects that we'll likely have to jump through. We're starting to walk the lines of PII, and that does take some time to figure out. And so this was sort of the reason behind the very decision we made to even go towards personalization, is because the DID aspects is very much personable information that exists. And we do find that's going to be and that is even on our future roadmap here once we get sub handles out. But yeah, domains and DIDs, Even sub handles are enabled now that personalization is live. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we're going to be jumping into the roadmap here. I don't want to jump the gun, but now let's jump into the catalyst proposal. What is the plan here? What are you guys looking to do, and how are you guys looking to do that?
Totally. Yeah. So Catalyst has been an interesting funding mechanism, not only for ourselves but for Cardano as a whole. I think they've done a very good job so far. I think the irregularity of the funds, the long time in between Fund 9 and Fund 10, was them having to move at a breakneck speed during the bear market, having to restructure the way that they give funds out. Basically while the USD value of ADA is so low, and so kudos to them. Kudos to them for that. Kudos to them for also, funding the ecosystem in and of itself. For this fund specifically for us, we wanted to tackle two things. We wanted to tackle what was the closest thing on our roadmap, which is building out the marketplace itself. So the personalization marketplace won't come with the launch of personalization. The launch of personalization will be an MVP of the marketplace. That's something we'll have to build out in and of itself. And we talked a lot about what that marketplace is going to look like, what it be able to enable, what it's going to do with self onboarding. And so that in and of itself is one of the proposals for Fund 10. The second one we wanted to tackle is there has been, especially lately, so there's been a lot of talk about, different competitors that are entering the space, things like ADA domains or CNS spaces, who had put a proposal out for Fund 10 as well. And their main talking points in competition with ADA Handle is their decentralized nature. And so I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. Is ADA Handle and handles themselves are as decentralized as they get, as they exist as asset tokens on chain, and they are secured just as any other token is secured because of the native asset standard that exists on Cardano. So the 220,000 ADA handles that exist, they're as decentralized as they get. We have zero control over those whatsoever. The part that is centralized on our end is the service of minting the handles themselves. And that is what the proposal is to rectify, is to build out the decentralization of our minting engine. Which is a really hard thing to do because we have to constantly check for double mints on the fly as users at their own discretion are describing the NFT that they want to mint. It's not just some random NFT that we send to a user. They have no choice. It is exactly what the user discretion is, and we have to mint that on the fly with while making sure that there are no duplicates out there. And so having that in a smart contract structure is actually really difficult to do. And so that is what our second proposal is. And once we do build that out, and hopefully the people and the critics that recognize that there is one centralized aspect to ADA Handle allows us and funds us to be able to build that. That key talking point that exists, that ADA Handle is centralized and that our naming service is not going to be centralized, it won't exist anymore. Everybody will be on their decentralized level playing fields. And so that kind of rounds out the two proposals that we have in Catalyst for Fund 10.
Thank you for breaking that down. I'll definitely be doing my due diligence to read up and just really get a better understanding of what you guys are proposing there. And to kind of touch on that very last point that you talked about with you guys having to actually double check for double mints, I know that there was a minor hiccup. I want to say maybe a month or two back, maybe a little bit further than that now. But you guys were fully transparent in the fact that, there was, I think, one particular transaction that did slip through, and you guys were fully transparent with the community as to how that was resolved. And I think it's that particular kind of attitude and transparency that really gives people the confidence in what you guys are building, right? Because it lets them know that you guys have nothing to hide. And even when you do have things that don't go according to plan, that you guys are willing to take the full responsibility of your actions. Now, you guys were able to resolve that, and it was done very, very quickly. And I think the support showed in the Twitter thread with multiple members congratulating you guys again on your transparency and on your forthcomingness and bringing it up, because you could have just as easily just try to slide it behind the rug or just maybe just not bring it up, right? So I think it really goes to show your testament and your commitment to the Cardano community. Now, one thing, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was just gonna to touch on that as well. It's something that I've seen also. There's so since CNS Spaces, whose proposal came out in Fund 10, there's been a talk the past week, about the differences between us now as competitors, and that's one thing that we did see up is the fact that there was a double mint at some point. We had our entire postmortem thread on it. Just for those who aren't aware, sort of like a quick bird's eye view. And this isn't to throw blame on on Cardano itself. At the time, what had happened was something that is extremely hard to replicate and extremely hard to build testing for and then implement in itself. Is that a lot of the Cardano nodes had crashed, and because those nodes had crashed, our minting API servers, which were attached to them, also went down. And so, during that excessive downtime, the load balancer had returned this 504 gateway timeout. And we have a check, and we do have a check for that. It's just that because they were down for so long, it had returned, a null, and there was a double mint there. And like you said, what we didn't want to do, and this is one thing that we believe builds a respectful, a respectable, and trustworthy community, is having that full transparency. We could have 100% swept that under the rug, and nobody would have been the wiser. But that just didn't sit well with us. So we decided to let everybody know exactly what happened, why it happened, and it's only going to make it, because that's only going to make us better, and it's only going to allow other people to have that knowledge and build that into their own systems. And then, because like I said, that's a really hard thing to replicate, and allowing other people to learn from our mistakes is something that I think really builds a strong and tight-knit community.
I don't think I could have said it any better. Again, thank you guys for what you guys are doing, and your community really shows. And I've been a huge member and a huge fan of what you guys have been building since day one. So thank you for all of that. And I think it's just a minor blip in what has yet to come from the ADA Handle team. Now, I've got one community question here that I want to ask before we jump into the very last question here for today's video, which is going to be surrounding your future roadmap. And that is just going to be surrounding the support of additional customization features, such as music, video, or potential animations. I'm sure you guys have thought about this before, but being that we can now add customizable PFPs, when can we potentially expect the next level, right, with music, videos, and animations?
Interesting, Fareed. This is the funny thing about doing these interviews. There's you would think that you were able to talk about all of the different potentials in our internal meetings. Absolutely not. There's just so many different avenues, and this is one of the avenues we haven't even talked about. And one of the avenues we'll probably now have to talk about, that you bring it up, and probably build something for it. Maybe we'll even throw that into the marketplace build out itself. Because I think when I say vendors will be able to sell goods and services as it exists now, right? It's just the artwork of the background, but having them to be able to have the option of selling audio or selling video. Those are things that we hadn't even considered, and probably is a really, really good idea for us to build towards.
Yeah, I think there's a huge market for that. I'm sure, as you're aware, Noom recently launched their music record store, right, in collaboration with NMaker, and I believe it was Jira Wallet. And we saw Jira Wallet basically adopt a music player directly within their wallet to support the music and the artists within that niche, right? So I think just as there is a huge creator market for PFPs and NFTs specific to artwork or visuals, I think there is just as big of one for audio and video as well. So I'm interested to see what you guys do on that front.
Yeah, it's crazy how things align like that, because I actually have a meeting set up with Ryan here in a couple of days from Noom. So being able to, and it's about something completely different. So being able to bring this up is actually going to be super interesting.
No, definitely. Please follow up if there's any alpha you'd like to share here on the channel. I'd be more than happy to do that. All right, Goose. We are at about 30 minutes. I understand you have a very busy schedule, so we're going to jump into the very last topic here for today's video, and that is going to be surrounding the ADA Handle roadmap for the year of 2023. Now, I understand that things do change, and you guys didn't actually put any specific dates on here, which I give you guys a lot of credit for, because as you probably know more than anybody, the community will hold you to it. So as a part of Q2, Q3, and Q4, we are expecting the shipping of personalization, the subhandle protocol, which not only will support actual NFTs that are minted, but also virtual subhandles, which I was really excited to hear about. And then we're going to also be expecting something related to P2P rentals. Now, one recent proposal that just came out from the Fluid Tokens team was going to be called Fluid Share, which is aiming to be a NFT renting platform. That really piqued my interest because, again, what we have right now is the ability to use your NFTs as collateral, but you don't have the ability to rent them out. And what they are proposing is some sort of set of smart contracts that will allow for you to easily rent out your NFT without having the hassle or worry of not getting it back, right? So my thing is when I hear something like that, that opens up a ton of different use cases. And then when I jump over to your roadmap and I see something very similar, right, with the ability to potentially rent out NFTs, I'm really interested to hear like what is the plan surrounding that, and just generally speaking, what can we expect from the roadmap and the future vision here for ADA handles?
Man, I gotta give it to you. You're extremely good at your job, very professional. Because we had only just talked about the fact that Fluid Tokens had built something very similar, and is probably going to allow users of handles to be able to do exactly what we're going to build with peer-to-peer renting. So, man, kudos to you, because we haven't like I said, we just talked about this yesterday. Peer-to-peer renting, right? I don't think we've even talked about it publicly, so this might be even another alpha drop. All we did really was put the peer-to-peer renting on the roadmap itself, and if anybody asked questions, we'd answer them. But I don't think many people have put two and two together of why it's so important. As it exists today within the industry, right, there is ENS, and they sort of have flagshipped the domain name service and naming convention that exists in Web3. And that is the standard, not only from the user perspective, but a standard for business revenue, right? And so what they do is they're basically the registrar for all of these domains. And it's sort of in a federated manner. I think UD also enables the license to be able to mint those domains. And what we wanted to build, and something that is specific to Cardano itself, is allow users to be their own registrar and basically financialize the aspect of having a handle in the same way that you can financialize the aspect of owning a house, because you can rent that out if you are in no specific need to. And what that does is it adheres to the ideology of a decentralized network, a peer-to-peer network, of people that have a sense of community with one product, one service, and to be able to allow everybody to be their own registrar, and then also put into place, certain frameworks that disallows the ability for heavy-handed or deep-pocketed users to sort of federate this, is also something that we're looking at. But that's sort of the goal of peer-to-peer renting. It's going to be somewhat far out. I think we really want to give people a very, very strong case for why they need a handle. And that's going to come with personalization. That's going to come with the subhandle protocol. And that's going to come with being able to have DIDs and domains on your handle. I think once we cross and check off those 4 boxes, we'll be able to successfully launch peer-to-peer renting in a manner of which people are like, yeah, I absolutely need a handle, because not only could I use it for all of the things mentioned above, but I could also rent that out to someone who finds value and use for all of the things mentioned above. And so that's sort of our end goal for peer-to-peer renting.
Thank you for that. A lot of really innovative ideas coming from you and the team. Again, I think there's just so many use cases and so many possibilities here that from a user's perspective, it just creates more utility and therefore probably more demand in the long term for ADA handles in general, right? I think a lot of the interactions that we've seen with ADA handles so far have just been people selling them on jpeg.store. But imagine being able to get everything that we've touched on so far, but then also the ability to loan or rent out your, potentially highly sought after ADA handle for a couple of months to be able to make some ADA and then be able to get that back and then do it all over again, a few months down the line. I think this creates a huge passive income opportunity and therefore a bit of utility here for the Cardano community and just anybody who holds an ADA handle. So that's a really interesting thing to hear. And again, I'll be keeping my eyes glued to see what you guys do when it comes to P2P rentals. And then potentially you guys maybe, leveraging or collaborating with Fluid Tokens to see exactly how their solution comes along as well.
Totally.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that very, very much, Goose. I think that is going to bring us here to a close. I always like to end off my interview here by just asking my guest as to what closing thoughts what closing thoughts or key takeaways they'd like to share with the community. And so I'll just kind of pose you the same question, what are your parting thoughts here? And what is that one thing that you want somebody to take away after watching this interview about ADA Handle and what you guys are building?
Yeah, awesome question. I think the one thing that I'd like people to take away as personalization comes to fruition and we finally hit mainnet and we launch the service itself is for the first time in Cardano, for the first time in the social space, you'll be able to have one streamlined and continuous identity if you choose to do so across multiple applications completely seamlessly. And that is an ode not only to our own development, but an ode to the infrastructure that exists on Cardano. And so I'm really excited for people to finally be able to experience that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the man himself, Mr. Goose, joining me here today from the ADA Handle team. It's been a pleasure, Goose. Again, I really do appreciate it. I look forward to having you on the channel again as all of these additional updates come live on the mainnet. And if you're watching this video and you guys want more information surrounding ADA Handle, then definitely make sure to jump over not only onto their testnet, but also onto their regular website where you can actually begin the process of minting out your own ADA Handle. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to tap that like button. If it's your first time stopping by the Dapp Central YouTube channel, you guys want more content like this, not only surrounding ADA Handle, but the top builds within the Cardano ecosystem, then consider subscribing. And if you guys have any questions for me or Goose surrounding ADA handles or Cardano in general, then go ahead and make sure to leave those down in the comment section below. That said, Goose, take care out there in Vegas, stay dry, and I'll be seeing you up there for NFT LV.
Thank you so much, Fareed. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to get me on here.